Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Oh boy. Welcome into a very special edition of Judd's Hockey Show. The U.S. has just won its first Olympic gold in hockey since 1980 in a game that caused my hands to go freezing cold in a house that wasn't cold. My God, what a stressful but great game. Connor Hellebuyck in goal, fantastic. It is Judd. It is Jessi Pierce who joins us in with her gold medal, her USA jersey. It is AJ Fredrickson, and it is a whole lot of early morning Sunday stress, but well worth it. Jack Hughes, Quinn's brother, of course, who plays for the Devils, scores the winning goal after in the third period, Canada absolutely dominated. Hellebuyck was phenomenal. Let's just go around the room. Initial feelings, Jessi Pierce, your initial takeaways of the U.S. first gold medal in the Olympics in hockey. Since either of you were born.
I can't breathe. Like, it feels like a fever dream. You know what I mean? Like, I can't fathom it. You're up early in the morning too, right? So I think that discombobulates the brain cells a little bit. I had to fight with my children to get them out of bed. They're like, we don't even like hockey. That's your thing. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You were waking up. This is the first Sunday that they don't wake up before 7 in their entire existence. It's beyond me. Incredible. An incredible game from both standpoints too, right? Like, Canada played the long game. That's what they have done the past 3 games in this tournament, the 2 prior to this U.S. I love it. Like I said, I know I was hesitant. I was very nervous that the U.S. wouldn't medal, but they played well up until this point. And today, they have it. Gold! Holy cow! They won gold against Canada, of all teams, against that juggernaut. The 5-on-3, that's where it really sealed for me. That PK and Connor Hellebuyck playing out of their minds when Canada was up 5-on-3 on that power play. Fantastic. No notes. Go USA. Play Freebird. Play Freebird all day long, please.
Hellebuyck with the game of his life. I mean, that was probably the best save, the paddle save that I've seen since Washington shut down Alex Tuck in, what was that, game 7 of the Stanley Cup final back in 19 or 20? That is about the save of a lifetime right there. Now, I'm glad for him. He maybe helps put this notion that he can't compete on the big stages and everything. Maybe crazy to think it's the team in front of him in Winnipeg that's not all that great in the playoffs and not one of the best goaltenders, if not the best goaltender. Well, granted, he has some howlers in the past, but he really rose to the occasion here and was the better goaltender in that game. Canada, I think after the first period, kind of recollected. I thought they were outplaying USA for the most part. And it looked like Team USA was really back on their heels. The 5-on-3 that they gave Canada, I thought was going to be a death sentence. Mm-hmm. And they just powered through. And frankly, gave a lot of vindication to Bill Guerin for the JT Miller pick, the Vincent Trocheck picks. I'm eating my own words there because they were great in this gold medal game and really showcased. But this is what I was expecting post preliminary, which is this team looked more cohesive at times than Team Canada, where they were, I think, looking to go and do individual skill at times and rely on, okay, we are just, better hockey players. And they showed that. Don't get me wrong. There was instances where Canada just showed we are a better team at times, but USA, they came together, and this was a full 60-minute effort where they started hot. They kind of got in the trenches. They battled back, and they kind of just fended off until the end of that third period. Big goal. As much as I really wanted to be Quinn Hughes from Matt Boldy on that first chance or right off the rush, Jack Hughes nails it. Gold for Team USA. This is an amazing win. The first time I've ever witnessed gold in my lifetime for the men's side of USA.
Both of you.
Yes.
Yeah, I forget Jessi. Jessi and I are kind of right in that age bracket there.
Yeah,
so.
2010 just lives so vividly. And ironically, yesterday I tweeted out there's that comment that I've been trying to avenge since 2010 from my Canadian friend, where he calls when I went out to USA Hockey to intern there, and there's a statue and it's silver. And the first thing he calls out is, wow, that looks silver there. And so I've been waiting 16 years to avenge that. And he was the first one to message me. He goes, congratulations. And I was like, paint it gold, paint that damn statue gold, because man, this feels good. It feels so good. It feels so good. And they did it without Sidney Crosby. It's a little bittersweet, I think, too. Credit to Sidney Crosby for recognizing he wasn't going to be able to help Canada to the way it needed for respect for Pittsburgh. But you do wonder what a difference that might have been too for Canada as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you can nitpick a bunch of things. It's not worth it. Like you can nitpick going 2-3-on-3, which, by the way, with this talent is amazing to watch. It's absolutely incredible. But there's no question. I think the takeaway is this. This is the at the end of the day, as great as Ryan Miller was in 2010, and of course, as you referenced, Canada won that with the golden goal in OT of the gold medal game. As great as Miller was, today was the single greatest performance in goal for this country since Jim Craig. Like that's what it comes down to. That's 100% what it comes down to. If the U.S. had lost, I think we would have been talking ultimately about you didn't take more goal scorers, you only scored one goal. Like this can go so many different ways. A year ago in the OT of the championship game, yeah, exactly right. Jessi,
I'll have them delivered. I'll make these children useful and have them delivered. Don't worry.
Sounds good. A year ago in the championship game of the Four Nations tournament, for instance, the U.S. had 2 or 3 in overtime, phenomenal chances. Could have won, didn't win because Binnington made great saves. And this, I mean, that third period, that paddle save that Hellebuyck made was phenomenal. Now, I did write, I took a ton of notes, and I did write at one point that the hockey gods were smiling on the USA because Nathan MacKinnon, 9 times out of 10, that wide open, that yawning net, 9 times out of 10, that puck is in the net. And he missed the net. Yeah. But you know what? Hellebuyck deserved that. He created some luck. But I mean, to me, that's the story here. It's the story of, do you get not just the saves, do you get the phenomenal saves? I mean, McDavid had a breakaway. He really didn't even get a good shot off, but it's partially because Hellebuyck didn't go down. Hellebuyck forced his hand. Celebrini, who had a bunch of chances, and funny enough, he probably played his worst game of the entire tournament, which is saying something because he had a ton of chances. Yeah. He's a phenomenal player. But, you know, Celebrini, a breakaway. Hellebuyck flat out stops him. So there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of performances. Boldy got the first goal, which was great. But all of that being said, we aren't talking about roster construction right now, and we are talking about a gold because your freaking goaltender stood on his head. And if he's had a down season with the Jets, guess what? No one in this country gives a damn now. And it's funny that there was, including with us, there was controversy who's going to start in goal, and ultimately Mike Sullivan and Bill Guerin rewarded for rolling with a guy who was phenomenal. Shots were 42-28. 42-28 for Canada, and you still won that game.
And you knew that was Team USA's strength, though, right? Like, you did know when you compare side-by-side goaltending, that was going to be a strength. Defense was going to be a strength. But this was all Hellebuyck. It really was. And a testament to him, and like Age said, he kind of threw that monkey off the back. Like, what do you mean I don't show up come playoff time? What do you mean I don't, like, I love that for him. He was absolutely phenomenal. He is the reason that Team USA did what they did. And then you're getting that scoring from Jack Hughes, and you're jumbling lines a little bit. You're getting some of that secondary scoring. You're not getting it from Austin Matthews. You're not getting it from Brady Tkachuk, right? Like, I think Jack Hughes getting that dagger, hell of a tournament for Jack Hughes. We talked about it on the last live, you guys, how Jack Hughes, it's transformed me a little bit. And now, obviously, I wasn't paying much attention to Jack Hughes because he's in New Jersey. He's in the East. I don't pay much attention. Phenomenal player. Like, it makes you salivate a little bit more. Like, okay, yeah, no, let's do the brother thing. Whatever it takes to get you. Like, let's do the brother thing. Maybe. Absolutely tremendous. And another shout out to Brock Faber, who almost got that goal to extend the lead too, right? Just the double doink. Painful, but heck of a tournament. I love that Boldy had him on the ice immediately because they're besties off the ice, so they were able to celebrate that. But just everything. All right, I'm okay. My kids are going to be tormented by this. I don't know what they're feeling. It's a lot of emotions that they saw this morning.
I think the 3 phases that we've talked about, where it's like forwards, defense, goalie, I don't think there's been a question for the past handful of months when talking about potential roster construction to when the rosters were announced to right before the games, and even into our recent show the other day before the gold medal game, which was, okay, you can look at like the matchups for forwards, maybe the depth for defense, but when it comes to goalie, as good as Jordan Binnington is at these big stages in the Four Nations face-off, back to when he won the Cup with the Blues and what he's done so far, he had a shutout, in this Olympic Games before today's game. Connor Hellebuyck, I think, no question, was the better goaltender. But the talking point was, how much does that really matter? Because, you look at Stanley Cup playoffs, teams get goalied all the time. Like, the Wild, they fell victim to it multiple times. Like, Jake Allen, of all people, ran them out of the playoffs a handful of years ago. How much can one goalie do for you in a game of this size? Well, you saw that today. And I think Judd's comment, that's accurate. That is the best goaltending performance for men's hockey for the USA since Jim Craig against the Soviets. That's incredible. And Connor Hellebuyck now has that. That's his legacy. He stamped it. That's incredible for him. The other performance I do want to talk about, because this is a normally Wild-centric show, is that opening goal by Matt Boldy. Because that was if you weren't up already, if you didn't have your coffee, your espresso, your whatever you drink in the morning, your cup of OJ, you were up with adrenaline after that goal, because that was a superstar goal. That was incredible. The midair acrobatics, weaving through multiple Canadian defenders to then tuck it. It was poetry in motion, and this is what we've talked about with his ascension this season, going back off of last year, where it's like, okay, we see him taking steps. He's maturing to now he's engaged every single game this season. You know how good he's been. What we saw today from Matt Boldy on that opening goal, and frankly, I think a lot of the tournament. Today, he had some really good chances, more so. I think this was one of his better games. This was a superstar performance from Matt Boldy on the biggest stage he's ever played in.
Was that Makar and Taves as well? I know Devin Taves was definitely one of the two, and I think Makar might have been on the right side. Like, that is, he went through two guys that are just phenomenal. And yeah, that was, in fact, that goal, it wasn't as pretty, but I got a note, and I agree, Abby Murphy's goal for the U, where she flipped, now she flips the puck up, passes to herself, and passes it. But I mean, he just went through at least one, if I'm correct, if that was Cale Makar, he went through one all-world, and I mean, the Makar goal was a thing of beauty, defender there. And yeah, Age, you're exactly right. And that line, actually, at least for the first half of the game, Austin Matthews, Gensel, and Boldy, Jess, I thought was phenomenal. And Austin Matthews, just as far as his defensive responsibility at center throughout much of that game, was huge.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the comparison to Abby Murphy, because I was inundated with the same amount of text messages and tweets and everything. Like, that was very Abby Murphy-esque, and I love that it's brought women's hockey into recognition, because now you guys, the women and the men, brought home gold. Let's celebrate that. You don't have just today's celebration. Women already did it earlier, defeating Canada too, also in overtime. Phenomenal. No, yeah, the Boldy Matthews line got the tough matchup, right? You were kind of wondering what's that going to look like. Canada gets last change. That's who they were going with, and they did. They kept those guys as quiet as you possibly can, which I think was tremendous. Austin Matthews, yes, maybe didn't find the score sheet as much as Toronto Maple Leafs fans would have liked, or, some of us even on the obviously US side would have liked to see. But defensively, I didn't know he had that in his game. Oh, these are the wrong glasses. We brought the wrong glasses, but it's fine. We have to go instead. It's good.
Oh, okay. These are nice. Yeah, I like them.
How many USA glasses do you have?
A lot. I'm very committed to things. All right. These are actually from probably 4th of July, but yeah. No, phenomenal showing just in general. And you had guys stepping up in different situations. Jake Gensel, nice to see him. I mean, the penalty that he took, I don't blame him for. He was preventing a breakaway from one of the greatest players in the entire world, right? Like, I think Jake Gensel still had a decent tournament. There's another level I would have loved to see, but I'm not even going to bring any negatives. I love it. I'm so happy. I'm just so happy. Austin Matthews, great defensively. Matt Boldy, we've seen him extend that from this year. That this confidence is just going to ooze in to his return for the Wild. They've got Colorado, their second game back, you guys, too. That's going to be huge. I love how they're going to feel. Matt Boldy's going to be like, hey, Kale, remember what we just did to you? Hey, Nate Dogg. Was that fun? Are you feeling good about that?
I don't want to mess with Nate. I'm not trash talking Nate Dogg. No freaking way. No.
I hope he has a safe flight home. I hope he loves first class. I hope he has
a great dinner.
Yes,
exactly right. Am I correct in saying too? Speaking of the 5-on-3 that the U.S. killed against Canada in the second period, which, by the way, was a 5-on-3 for 1 minute and 33 seconds. Am I correct too in saying that the U.S. ended up 18 of 18 on the PK?
Mm-hmm. I know
I
they
think-
were heading in. They were perfect, right? And
I thi-
obviously, they didn't allow one, so that
I
would
think
be.
they were at least 18 of 18, which is absolutely crazy. Like when you consider the firepower of some of their opponents. I mean, Canada. It's funny, Canada actually, after that got done, I thought that for the rest of regulation, Canada looked way more fresh. The U.S. in the third period to me looked like a boxer against the ropes, and they were just trying to get the bell. And that 5-on-3 though was such an impressive kill. I believe Canada had in the entirety of that whole thing, I think they had like 3 shots. And if you recall, Mitch Marner iced the puck at the end of the 5-on-3. So, like, if you're shouting out important things, things like face-offs and special teams, that PK plays a huge role in why this team won gold. I mean, that was to me an enormous, enormous thing, if indeed, and I think they were perfect for the whole tournament.
Yeah, and Brock Faber, a huge part of that PK during the 5-on-3, right? Again, I can't say enough good things about the tournament that he had, which I think is so important. You've seen him turn up the heat, once the Wild did too. But again, we go back to the beginning of the year. Fabe's struggled. There was the lack of confidence. There just really wasn't a heck of a whole lot there. I am loving where his game has come back. He's finally found that. Again, he's going to be another guy that's just going to be oozing confidence. Quinn Hughes helps out with that. Quinn Hughes breaking Zach Parise's record for most points in the tournament too. Love to see that because he was also instrumental. It's Bill Guerin. Like, how do we feel about Billy G now and what he did with this team and what we've seen him do with the Minnesota Wild, right? Like, we have that in Billy G we trust, but he's made some questionable moves. But also this year, it feels very tight, very put together, very locked in. We pretty comfortable because trade deadline's the next big thing that we get to hassle him about. I mean, how do we feel about that, guys?
I mean, this once again just reassures me. I was still all on board for what he wants to do when it comes to what I've seen since the Quinn Hughes acquisition, because that makes me obviously confident when you get one of, if not the best defenders in the world. But now being able to recognize and just like have that proof in front of me that he knows exactly what it takes to build a gold medal winning team. How much does that translate like Stanley Cup winning team? It's probably pretty darn close to each other, but obviously he doesn't just have the pick of the litter. He doesn't have, all these guys have to do is just be American and he can just have them if he wants them. He has to now do a deal to acquire somebody for the Wild. That being said, we saw a lot of guys on the ice over this tournament where I think they're already kind of rumored. They're already kind of hinting at maybe they're targets for the Wild. There's some guys obviously that didn't make the trip in, like Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, etc., who fit that bill as well, who we have more than enough on. But it makes me think whatever Bill Guerin does, I'm at least going to give him the benefit of the doubt until I see otherwise. I was skeptical, I think, last season about the Gustav Nyquist trade because I know the player that he is, and that felt more of a trading for trading sake. This year, though, he has such a good track record over the past, 200 or so days in the world of hockey, where whatever he does, even if it's a heat check type of trade for him, I'm going to at least back him for the time being until he proves me wrong.
Let's go back because Jessi has to bolt for Wild practice at some point here, and I'm sure the players.
Sure, they're going to love to talk. It's going to be such a divided
totally dialed
room
in. Get the Canadians.
The Swedish guys are back too. I saw Jesper was at practice yesterday, so
Okay.
I'm sure it's going to be a very tilted room. Ryan Hartman's going to be thrilled, but then everyone else is going to be mad. So I don't know.
Yeah, get the Canadians. I'm love to find out what they think. 3-on-3 is crap. Hey, but let's talk about this in the time that Jessi has left with us, because I think it's important, and you alluded to it just a second ago, Jess. What does this mean? So in 1980, I don't know if you'd call hockey a cult sport or whatever, but it was certainly huge in Minnesota, Massachusetts, I think Michigan, but it was largely untapped sport as far as youth went around the country. And that gold medal, started a lot of hockey programs and a lot of kids playing. And I mean, that continues to be something that we have seen to this day. What do we think this means, not just in terms of the men, but the women too? Like your country just swept Canada for the gold in the men's, the women's. Jess, you worked there for the organization before as well at USA Hockey. What in your mind does this mean as far as a next step or a next sort of motivating factor to the grand state of hockey, because boys and girls in the last 3 days have seen just elite hockey, and at the end of the day, their country won gold.
I mean, there's always in my time. So for those unaware, I interned at USA Hockey back in 2010 and then have really worked for them in some capacity ever since, and love everything they've done from ADM, which is basically helping youth develop in the right way, which is something Hockey Canada had implemented, all the way up. There's always that natural Olympic surge, right? You're always going to get kids all of a sudden much more interested. They have try hockey for free days nicely timed over the Olympics and post times that work. They have it in the fall, and then they'll have another one coming up here when they have Hockey Week across America too. I think on the women's side of things, let's start there first, because they win gold, which was equally as dramatic, equally as huge. The PWHL also has been so instrumental in that and having that televised, because it really is, for the women's sports in general, you need that media attention. You need that focus, right? Like the men already kind of have that. You have your primetime games, you have your TNTs, you have your NBCs. For the women to take that center stage and get that national coverage was absolutely huge. So I think that's just going to continue to grow and grow. And now you're absolutely right, Judd, seeing these Americans and like, oh, I could be Jack Hughes. Look at Jack Hughes with his missing teeth. I'm going to do that for Halloween next year. Like there's just something so exciting. And for them to beat Canada and to know what the rivalry is there, I'm sure a lot of these kids maybe even watched Four Nations last year and got that little inkling then and got that taste. It's going to be great. It's phenomenal. It sets a new precedent. It sets a new thing. And there's so much going into today. It's exactly 46 years since they played the Soviets, right? And they beat the Soviets, not the gold medal game in 80, but it was that date. It's also Johnny Gaudreau's namesake child, his second birthday today. I saw that they were talking about that. And obviously everybody knows how important Johnny Gaudreau and the Gaudreau family has been since his untimely passing. And for them to keep him as involved, because he was such a huge heart of USA Hockey, has been tremendous. So I think all of that just build up. And then the goaltending. Goaltending's always been a weak spot for USA Hockey. It really has. So Connor Hellebuyck, I think that speaks volumes to where goaltending can go and will continue to go. I mean, he's a little bit on the older side. We got Jake Ottinger in line. Swayman saw his chance. So hopefully that continues to put a focus there. But USA Hockey has been in a good place. World Juniors, you've talked about. There's been these instances, you see it building. Now to finally get gold, it's, can you stay at this level? Can we at least maintain and continue to exceed? And I think they will. I really do. I'm so excited. I'm going to go. I'm going to leave it on that words, but don't forget. I'm sorry I said they wouldn't medal. I recognize I said it, but they did it. I believe in my heart, I wanted it too bad. That's all. So
you were trying not to jinx it.
I was.
I've done that.
I literally was just so fearful, right? Like my head was just so, I've never been so scared in my entire life because I wanted it so badly. And when you want something bad, you tend to talk yourself out of it, I think.
Well, let's also keep in mind they were in overtime goal swinging the other way of not meddling against Sweden. So it's not like you were. It's not like they were never not.
It wasn't negative. I just was concerned. I was really, but you're right. I think the one thing I did not probably take into account is how this team would really come together throughout the course of the tournament, right? Because you saw the prelims. It wasn't exactly, again, box score speaks differently than how I saw the team perform. It was the offense, but they were able to do it. Billy G found a way. Wow. Stanley Cup next. Let's go. Let's just do the damn thing.
We shall see. All right, get to practice. Say hi to all of the players. I'm sure the Canadians will be absolutely thrilled.
I should wear this. Do you think? Or should I not?
Maybe on TV. Who cares? I mean, it's a big day in USA Hockey. Yeah. Hartman will like it.
Yeah. How do you want to get on
Hartsey's side? Hartsey and I are besties already. We're good, so that'll be fine. We'll just hang out. Maybe we'll see. I'll say hi to Marc-Andre Fleury in it.
There you go.
Oh God, poor Flower. All right, see you, Jess. Thank you. See you, bye. What was your age? And I'd be curious to see the comments as well. What were your nerves like? Because I was literally sitting there from the start of the game and my hands were cold. And they're warm now. But I mean, I was literally so intense. At times I was pacing in front of the TV. I ordinarily look at my phone during games to watch Twitter and text. Mm-hmm. I put it aside. It was buzzing off the hook. And I'm like, I'm not looking at any of this. This is one of those games that was highly stressful, but I feel like it's also why sports fans watch a ton of sports, because we see so many mundane games. I feel like you have way more of an appreciation for today if you watch And look, for all of the people that watched, it's awesome. So I'm not trying to discount them. But I feel like if you watch a Wild game on a Wednesday night in November, your appreciation for today is so much greater because you'll watch that game for an eventual payoff. And today was, I'm not going to call it the best hockey game I've seen because I've seen some great ones, but it certainly was up there as far as it met expectations and was absolutely stressful.
My personal games I've watched might be on the Mount Rushmore of just entertaining games at face value. This had almost everything I wanted, minus Sidney Crosby not being on the roster for Canada.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But to answer your question about like how my nerves, when I watch Wild games, especially like the road games at home, because we're in the building a lot for those.
Yeah,
I will more consciously, like in big moments towards the end of the game or especially in overtime, I will sit up, maybe on the edge of the couch and like leaning forward. Today, I found myself doing that like naturally and forcing myself to just so I could bring myself off the edge. Like, you have to sit back. You have to try to relax during some parts of these games. But naturally, I was like, okay, I can do that for 3 seconds. And then it's like, oh my God, okay, here comes Jack Hughes on the rush. And I found myself back crouched over and I never was calm. I feel like the calmest I was maybe 5 minutes into the game when USA was just controlling play and dominating play right off the rip of that opening faceoff.
Yes.
But it was just back and forth. And as Canada kept continuing to build it, I feel like the angle at which I was sitting kept getting more acute to where I was like leaning forward, almost like grabbing my legs, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? This is why we love sports. This is why I loved like the game itself, the entertainment value, the casual fan tuning in, like, and this is personally the community of which we all experience this massive, massive event. Being a part of this moment is something that, you know, if you have TV access and you can watch the game, even if you don't, and you're following along on social media, you're following along like the online ticker, you were a part of this moment. And this was something for USA Hockey, a massive accomplishment that now you have in your memory. You can go back on, you can tell, you know, kids down the road or, you know, along those lines. This is now a core memory for me. And it's cool. I think now being removed 5-10 minutes, what do we do? 27 minutes here to this post-game show.
Yep.
Realizing that how cool this moment is and like being able to actually recognize that right now. Cause a lot of the times you don't. I'm a Cubs fan and I still kind of have that with the World Series in 2016. I remember like being able to celebrate that moment with my grandpa who got me into watching the Cubs when I was a little kid. This was so cool because it's a gold medal, the first one since 1980. It's doing it against the biggest rival in Canada. And as a Wild fan, having 3 members of the Minnesota Wild represent the USA winning that medal now, I mean, it's a really historic moment. It would like, I don't want to knock it down by saying, you know, it'd be a different story potentially if Russia was playing in these games or whatever. If Sidney Crosby was healthy and playing, they got the gold medal by doing it the only way they knew how, which was a hard, gritty, hard-fought team win against Canada in overtime. What, 48-ish hours after the women's team did the same against Canada as well. It's been an absolute whirlwind of 3 days for USA Hockey.
Yeah, and they went through. So yes, the Russians not being allowed in the tournament takes away from it a certain bit, but they, at the end of the day, they did go through Canada, which is what I wanted. So Russia is not allowed. That's an uncontrollable, like they can't be like, I want the Russians in here. But the one sort of controllable thing just from both teams' side was I wanted this game. Like, I did not want Czechia to upset Canada. I did not want Finland, right? Like, I wanted this game. And as a hockey fan, I had no interest in seeing any other countries meet for gold. Partially selfish, but also, I mean, it is literally best on best. And that's what we got. And the fact that the game today lived up to the hype, like, there's no question about it. We can argue about perhaps who should have won. We can argue about a lot of different things. But with the one thing we cannot argue about is this lived up to the moment. This lived up to the hype. This was best on best. The as Brian Boucher said a couple of times on the telecast, and I remember the Four Nations being a bit like this as well. So it's probably recency bias, but he said, I've never seen a quicker game. Like, this is nuts. Right. And not only was it quick, but it also was physical as hell. Like, those are two things that ordinarily don't get combined, but that game was physical. That game was quick. And you're right. The U.S. came out, and I was sort of concerned about this. They came out guns ablazing, and they were flying. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. And then, sure enough, it swung. But all of that being said, everything that we wanted when we learned that this would be the game, we got. We got every single thing, including, goaltending performances at both ends. I mean, that Binnington save in OT before he allowed the winner, that glove save, he had no business making that save. That was an incredible save. So every single thing that we wanted from this game, we got. And I do think if Finland had upset Canada, right, because they played in the last game, if Finland had upset Canada, I think that we all would have said, oh, that goal, and then the U.S. would beat Finland. We all would have said, oh, yeah, it's great. They won a gold. But you also would have had this, but they didn't play Canada. Absolutely. They never played them. So, yeah, there is no complaint. And the fact that anyone who complained about, I have to wake up early for this game, it was well worth it. And now you got the rest of your Sunday age to celebrate a gold. So, I mean, this to me, absolutely, positively delivered a fantastic Olympic event.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be kicking off the next 90 minutes watching the North London Derby after this, and that's what's great. I'm waking up. I'm gonna have all the second half of this Sunday.
Look at you with all your sports.
It's shaping up to be a potential great day for sports here in the Frederickson household. I want to ask you, does it discount the win at all that it had to go to overtime, being that it's 3-on-3? I personally don't care now. I originally wanted it to stay out of overtime. I think 5-on-5 would have been more poetic and whatnot. But it's not like everybody else was doing the same thing. It's not like this was the only game that was 3-on-3.
Right.
I think it probably makes it more dramatic and it's more hockey at its pure sense. Alex, you are absolutely right. I will be depressed in about 90 minutes because right now it's still 0-0. So, it's not that catastrophic. But the 3-on-3 overtime, I can get past. And maybe that's just because now we are half an hour after the USA being on the better side of that 3-on-3 overtime result. But it doesn't sour anything for me personally.
No. And I mean, here's the thing too, to keep in mind. Canada started, because it is a skills competition once you go to 3-on-3. Canada started McDavid, Celebrini, and Makar, and they didn't score. So it's not like, well, when you went to 3-on-3, the U.S. was a shoo-in because Canada wasn't that good 3-on-3. It's not that way. In fact, Canada started three of the best players in the world, and no shade to Fabes and Quinn Hughes. They are fantastic. Yeah. But I mean, it was equal, if not advantage Canada, right? So yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't know how I feel about it in the playoffs. I probably don't like it, but I also like the fact that it gets the game done. Do I want to watch 3 OTs to decide the winner, and by the time that they're done, they're so dog tired, a puck hits a guy's breezers on his butt and he falls to the ice and it goes in? So no, I got no problem with that. And look, Canada had, the thing too is, it was fair because Canada had every chance in the third period to not just win it, but go up by 2 or 3 goals.
Right.
And so it's not like the third period. I mean, my God, it was Canada. So they had their chance. And quite frankly, the better goaltender, to go back to the top of the show, was in the U.S. net. So, no problem, no complaints. I'm sure the Canadians aren't as pleased as we are. But I thought that was a fair and square win. And again, Zach Werenski, we probably should talk about him too. That pass to Hughes. I mean, that guy had 3 assists in the semifinals, assist today. Faber's great. Quinn Hughes is great. Zach Werenski, though, he is probably in the Quinn Hughes area code at least, right? I wouldn't say he is necessarily as good, but I think he is, if nothing else, in the area code. That guy is a hell of a hockey player. He just happens to play for Columbus.
Yeah, that's the thing. If he played somewhere else that wasn't the Columbus Blue Jackets, he'd be talked about in the Norris Trophy conversation every single year, even though he won it, was it 2 years ago? Or am I mistaken there? Was he a runner up? I can't remember exactly, but
I have to look.
But he's just tremendous. The way that he walks the blue line, he's a great puck-moving defenseman, but also he's got such a good shot on him. He's got great vision. Everything we talk about for guys like Cale Makar, guys like Quinn Hughes, even Roman Josi, I think, has maybe lost a step, but in his prime, that's sort of what we're seeing with Zach Werenski, which is just how good he can be. And for a team like Columbus, he is a catalyst for their turnaround this season after firing Dean Evison. He's a leader on the ice, not just in time on ice minutes, but just point production. He does so much. And what we saw from him in the Team USA sweater this past 2 weeks has been amazing. I do want to give a quick shout out, though, not only to Zach Werenski, but the over 800 people hanging out here on the new Judd's Hockey Show YouTube channel. We are a little over 2,700 subscribers into this journey. We are trying to close in on that 3,000 subscriber mark. If you're watching this, we have over 800 in here now, 833 to be exact. And if you're one of those 833 who have not subscribed and you like the content, you want to follow us along, as hopefully now we go from a USA gold medal into a playoff run for the Wild that hopefully hangs out and persists and sees a Stanley Cup run. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to stay tuned into the content on this channel all season long.
The three players from the Wild, I thought all were very, very good. Quinn Hughes scored the OTGWG against Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Boldy scored the first goal today. I thought that he was solid. Brock was solid. Now, I got a question for you, though, because I went back and watched this 4 times, okay?
Okay.
On the double doink, the supposed double doink, Faber takes the shot, and they said on the telecast it hit the post, and bounced out. Did you go back and watch it? Because I heard 1 doink, not 2. And when I went back and watched it, I swear to God, Gensel got his stick on the puck the first time, and then it hit the opposite post. Did you see
I did
that?
not go back. I didn't go back to watch it. So
I went back and watched it.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Well, I'm not sure I'm right. Because they insisted, and I might have just been wrong. But I swear to God, because I kept going back, and I swear to God, Gensel, and I don't think it was a high stick, but he got his stick on the puck, and then I thought because there was one very loud doink, like a ping, like the type of ping that you don't hear at Wild home games, and I don't know why. It's very weird. But Brock was, again, he is so solid. And speaking of Bill Guerin, too, let's not forget, and he unfortunately suffered a bad injury in this tournament, but let's not forget Brock Faber should have been a Los Angeles King.
Right.
And Kevin Fiala, and that was for salary cap purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'll always go back to that trade. Everyone was like, oh my God, you got to trade Fiala, and you got this guy from the Gophers, and I'm sure he's okay, but like you just lost a goal scorer. Let's go back to that. Like if you want to give flowers out and you're a Bill Guerin stan, that to me, it's one of the best trades. And this might sound crazy, or it did at the time. This is one of the best trades in Wild history. Brock Faber is one of the best defensemen in the world. He's not as flashy as Quinn Hughes. He's not as flashy as Cale Makar. But make no mistake, he is one of the best defensemen in the world, and you got him for a guy who you had to trade.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a deal.
And not to mention, it was a guy you had to trade, but you also not only got Brock Faber in that, but you got a first-round pick. Granted, that ended up being Liam Ogren, who we now know they moved off.
Still got you Quinn Hughes.
But in part, that was essentially, a third of the move to acquire Quinn Hughes. So, that trade, you're right. As much as, and I think you had a take on Mackey and Judd earlier this week, which was best in-season trade of any men's sports team in Minnesota history, which was the in-season acquisition of Quinn Hughes. The setup, though, with that, to have now a top pairing partnered Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber, stems to that Kevin Fiala trade where, one, you're right, tragic injury for him. You really hope at his age he's able to come back and it doesn't affect him. Yep. But what Brock Faber is for the Minnesota Wild, being a guy who, grew up 20 minutes from, at the time, XL Energy Center, now Grand Casino Arena. The picture that has circulated, I think, for years now of him on the glass cheering after a Kirill Kaprizov goal, now being teammates with him, representing his country, now an Olympic gold medalist in his second Olympics with Team USA. He's just a guy that is such a strong foundation and an important foundation piece for this Minnesota Wild team that obviously now might be overlooked at times because Quinn Hughes plays next to him and he's just such a superstar. But the way he has played this season after a rough start, like Jessi mentioned earlier in the show, it says a lot about him, just who he is as a player, who he is as a person. Because he's a great guy off ice too. I mean, every time
he's captain material.
Win or lose, and yes, you've said that I think a couple years in a row now, which is future C potential for the Minnesota Wild. But win or lose, you go down to the locker room. If he's there for media availability, he's not afraid to kind of just tell it straight. And it's not. Sometimes you get the guys who are a little more sheltered off in the volume and how they project, but he is, say it with your chest. Yeah, we played bad today, blah, blah, blah. Obviously right now, that's not the case post-Olympics. He's probably riding higher than most people out there. So he should take the time to celebrate on this flight home before they get back to work because they got a Stanley Cup to win now.
Well, that's the thing too is, and you know what too? I do wonder, and it's certainly not just the three guys from the Wild I'm talking about here, but how do you come back to the regular season? How do you come back and be as engaged? I mean, these guys, that game today was, there have been game 7s of the Stanley Cup finals that haven't come close, I don't think, to that intensity. So
right.
It is a legitimate question about who comes back. And, I'm sure guys are banged up too, but just forget that for a second. Just to come back and have the intensity or the requisite intensity, because you're going right back into the fire, stretch run, trade deadline, and then the playoffs. I've said this before, I can't imagine, mid-April hits or May, right?
Yeah.
And you went through this experience and now you're like, oh, I'm right back in that grinder. Boy, it's so interesting. It's so intriguing.
It'll be interesting to see how that drains those guys mentally because...
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're physically and mentally drained.
Absolutely. That being said, I love the experience they got. Last year after Four Nations, Matt Boldy came back and he didn't play. I mean, he wasn't the player he was now.
No.
But he came back and he sort of had this different mentality and sort of this different attitude and almost work ethic where you saw a pivot in how he approached the game just because of the experience. And granted, they lost to Canada in that Four Nations final. But what he did there, and now obviously we know Quinn Hughes missed out last year. I don't think he necessarily needed this experience. He's already a fantastic player. Brock Faber, maybe this benefits him more for a second stint at the Olympics. Now third stint, I think, with Team USA on this international level. What those guys are going to take away, they have that taste of winning something massive now. And so that might drive them. That might drive them to, okay, Stanley Cup. And on the other side, for some of the other guys who didn't do that in the locker room, Team Sweden missing out entirely on a medal, who I thought were probably the third favorites behind USA and Canada. I thought the gap was going to be a lot closer, but they just fumbled this entire Olympic Games. They're hungry probably now to, we have to win something. Like we went here, we got embarrassed. Like we need to come back with some sort of hardware. Now there's going to be that envy. I would love to watch how that's going to, because I don't think there's going to come back and be any rivalry between those guys. Like, oh, you knocked us out, you denied our chance.
No, guys don't care anymore.
They don't care about that.
Yeah.
But there's that internal thing I'm interested to watch, which is how hungry does it make the Swedish guys who are coming back now, and also the USA guys. We got a taste. Now I want more, because that's what real winners do. They're not satisfied with one thing. And that's where, like, the great captains over time, you see their post-game stuff after hoisting the cup, and, they enjoy it in the moment. But at the parade, it's like, this is fun. We're going to be right back here again next year. And then we're going to do it the year after that. And that's what I'm hoping Matt Boldy, Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber, all are going to have back now in St. Paul.
Yeah, and I think, too, so going into the Four Nations last year, I think that Boldy and Faber came back better players. Boldy especially, because I think be around that group of players was such an advantage. And the games were so high intensity that I think that they did take away that. But your point's a great one, which is they didn't come back champions. And so now you've got that taste. Now you've got the taste of, I'm not just with great players, all, not all, but a bunch of first line guys. They're on the power play. They're on special teams. But now they come back as champions. And so how can they translate that to, quite frankly, a locker room here that doesn't have, guys for the most part, aside from Nico Sturm, who's won a couple of cups, with guys with cup experience. So that will be an interesting step to see, because this is as close clearly to a cup as you can possibly get now. So does that also bring back, do Boldy and Faber and Quinn Hughes bring back something else as well? And yeah, it's going to be really, really intriguing to see. I want to talk to you about something because I saw a bunch of debate about this, and I think I think what it was a subtle. I think it was subtlety in a day and age where everyone wants it to be black and white. Okay, and that was the whole thing in the last, I don't know, couple weeks, but it really picked up in the past couple days when the U.S. was going to play for the gold on the same day that the U.S. beat the Russians 46 years ago. And it's the Miracle on Ice thing, okay?
Yep.
So I saw, and I mean, it's a small sample size, but I saw things on Twitter like, this wouldn't be a miracle. This is nothing like that. These are pros against pros. And here's what I think got lost there, okay? First of all, this team hadn't won Olympic gold since then.
Yep.
Second of all, much like you, these players, the oldest player on that team for the U.S. today was Brock Nelson, who was born in 91 or 11 years after his uncle won gold, Dave Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And much like you, these players were very impacted by the 2004 movie Miracle. And, you know, they wanted to recapture the goal. They wanted to recapture the feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like you won today. It's a great feeling. And I felt like this like attempt to say there's no comparison completely lost the plot line, which was no one was trying to compare them as being identical. Beating Canada, in fact, I said at the outset, you should be expected, I think, to win gold. You're that good. But I think that there was it's not the same at all. It's not the same at all. No, it's not the same. But it is your first gold since then. And the movie Miracle did a great job of like showing you the closeness of that team. Now, I know it was a bunch of college kids, but didn't you think it was odd that people were like pushing back against this? Well, it has nothing to do with it, so it's not the same. But it has everything to do with the feeling. It has everything to do with the fact that you hadn't done this in 46 years, and the last team to do it was that team. I thought that was like what made this sort of cool, but of course, it was black and white. Well, they're not the same at all, which I thought was sort of too bad because my appreciation for what they were trying to say, despite the fact that it was informed by a movie,
Right.
I got it. And I felt like a lot of people didn't get that.
I think so. Admittedly, I was a little, I'm not going to say annoyed, but peeved, I guess, at the side-by-side comparisons where it's like, I get it. You need to establish the link there because it is a massive deal. But comparing it as the same thing that I saw some people sort of do is wrong. That like it's not the same thing in that sense.
Right.
For puckheads, like the people that watch hockey consistently, I think they recognize that. That's very simple. But this is more than just for the diehard hockey fans watching. This is about what it can do for a nation that hockey is not the most popular sport. It is still miles behind the popularity of football, basketball, and even in the ratings, I think it still trails baseball slightly, even if the gap might be getting closed. But also, you look at like MLS soccer, since the arrival of Lionel Messi, they've closed the gap there to where it's like it's almost threatening. It's not there, but it's closing that gap. What this does for the fans of, somebody tuning in who maybe would never do that. And they, maybe they run like a LeBron stan account on Twitter, but they've been watching over the Olympics the past 2 weeks and they are feeling this hype. This might make them tune in now for a Wild Avalanche game in like 5 days. And then they're going to get hooked. And that sort of catalyst for creating a burst of popularity and just interest in the sport across the United States is exactly how it relates to what 1980 did. In terms of the competition, in terms of the USA-Russia political undertones there, it's not comparable in any sense or way, shape, or form here. This was best on best competition with one of, if not the best hockey team I've ever seen constructed in my lifetime. I don't know about you. I know you have seen some great teams in your time, but like this Canada team at full health is the best I've ever seen constructed. But what it's doing, like it's important because I love the sport of hockey, and for a long time I think I was the like my sport person. hey, do you guys want to get together and watch this game? No, the Wolves are on. I'm not a huge basketball guy, so that would always be like, well, the Wild are kind of making a run here. Oh, that's fine. I'll go watch it alone. It's not a big deal. We're at a point where you can't do that anymore. You can't be the person that's trying to beg. They're not going to watch it if they're not interested. A sport and an event and an Olympics like this being propped up with a narrative that matches this movie that everybody loves in this historical event that was an explosion of popularity. Having something like that modern day, even if it's not the same thing on certain aspects, I appreciate people making those links because it does wonders for the sport. And that's ultimately the big takeaway from me here. If it even adds 100 or 2 across each state, hockey fans, that grows and it blossoms because there's somebody out there taking the past couple games into account that are like, I'm a hockey fan for life now. Like, this made me feel something, and that's why I'm going to get into this now.
Yeah, and I think that, in fact, I believe that the ratings show this, and it's part of the thing about the pros being in the Olympic Games. I don't think the NHL gets the ratings effect. Like, I think that it comes back, and because the first time in '98, I think the league was like, oh my God, it's gonna go through the roof, and it really didn't, and I don't think it will. But where I think it's so important too is it's not the ratings, it's the impact of people playing and kids. Like that's why I asked Jessi. I think the women winning is so important, and I know that they've now won 3 gold, so it's not foreign to them. It is a little bit to the men, but I think the women and the men both winning just drives home the desire of kids. Like, if you're a kid watching that, because like the adults, adults love Olympics. In fact, a lot of adults who don't like sports probably watched today and thought it was great if they lived in this country. But the reality was, they probably aren't going to watch the Hurricanes play the Devils. That's fine. But where I think it makes an impact is, and this is where the country since the 80s made huge inroads, but it can never hurt, is now you've got the women who started to play in the Olympic Games officially in '98. You've got the men. You've got side-by-side golds against your arch rivals in both cases, Canada. And how many kids now say who are playing basketball or something? And now I get it. Hockey's an expensive sport. But how many boys and girls? Because keep in mind too, AJ, in '80, if a girl said, I want to play hockey, the majority of their parents probably said, sorry, you can't. Yeah. A few said yes, but now a little girl can sit down and watch the women win on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Can certainly sit down and watch this, and there's no wall of no, it's just boys. Yeah. And so that's where I think that this is just so enormous for both teams. Because for little boys and girls, there is no line drawn. This is not just a boys sport now. It's an everybody sport. And it's a sport where you just saw in the span of 4 days or so, you just saw your country win 2 golds playing an electric style. I mean, both games were great too. Yep. So it's not like, well, the women's game was okay and the men's game was fantastic. Both games were fantastic. So I think as far as growth of the game, if there's anything that that can provide another surge, I think it's this, which I think is absolutely fantastic, because I've always said, why would you not want more people playing and watching your game?
Yeah, I don't think something like this, like, the interest is going to be there for sure, but the biggest, as somebody who has worked in a hockey like retail store, I know that the biggest border to get people interested over something like a basketball or a football or anything else is just the price it takes to play. Getting into hockey, you want to get, somebody out there to play mites or even just like learn how to skate. You need to get skates. You need to get probably shin pads, elbow pads, helmet. That stuff alone, just for a starter kit for a younger kid, is hundreds upon hundreds of dollars right off the rip. And then on top of that, let's say you get into organized stuff. You have the ice time, you have the slush fund, you have to dedicate all this time. If you go out of town for a tournament, you're going to go to Breezy Point, and that's great and fun, and it's a great memory for that kid. But also, it's just so much money. And then all the time you look at the game today. How many sticks over the last 2 weeks have you seen break in some of these games? That's $300-400 out the window. So I don't know interest-wise, and that's where this is something that, unfortunately, this podcast isn't going to be able to solve that problem right now. That's on companies like Bauer and CCM.
Yeah, just go back to wood
and
sticks
True.
for kids, for Christ's
Yeah, let's
sakes.
just do
They
it.
don't
Just
need these $400 composite or whatever the hell they are sticks.
I do have a question for you though, and I want to pose this because the Golden Goal by Sidney Crosby in 2010, I'm sure was a poster, something plastered on the wall of every young Canadian boy and girl's walls growing up. After seeing that, I mean, it's iconic. You have one of the greatest players in NHL history, hockey history, Sidney Crosby. It's an iconic moment to win for Canada. Jack Hughes gets a Golden Goal today. Do you think that compares at all for the USA youth, the USA audience in terms of its significance, what it means as we climb now for the first time on the JHS channel, over 1,000 people live watching us here post USA gold over Canada in overtime. Jack Hughes' Golden Goal, how does it compare to Sidney Crosby's in 2010?
Boy, I mean, I think it's very close. I think it's very close. And if nothing else, like that could definitely be a poster. And if nothing else, too, you know what? I will be shocked if we do not see an influx of Hughes brothers, Luke, endorsements. Because yeah, like it's definitely up there for this country. I mean, if you score the winning goal in the Olympics, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mike Ruzioni, as far as I recall, never played a game in the National Hockey League, and he remains a household name. I think he went from the Olympics to, I was trying to remember today, I didn't Google it. I think he went to like MSG Network to work Rangers games or something at the time because he wasn't really that good a player.
I just had to look it up, and he had a 2-year stint with the Toledo Gold Diggers of IHL. That's incredible.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he was a ham and egger, but he scored that goal. He was on TV today. His name is synonymous. Like everyone knows. They probably don't know his complete story, but everyone knows if you're at all a hockey fan or an Olympic fan, and you say Mike Ruzioni, everyone's like, oh yeah, of course. So I think it compares very favorably. Now, is Jack Hughes Sidney Crosby in the big picture of hockey? No, he's not. He's a hell of a player. He's not. But I mean, Crosby's one of the greatest of all time. But that being said, I think that Jack Hughes has now cemented his name. I mean, it's been 46 years. I think he has cemented his name in the annals of USA hockey and one of the most thrilling games in the history of that program. Don't you?
I agree. The real loser today is TJ Oshie because this now pushes his shootout heroics, I think, to the background for the time being because this goal by Jack Hughes is just so massive. You win it in overtime. It's gold medal. It's over Canada. 3-on-3. It's a lot of ice. And I think he was already regarded as a fantastic player, and he's already got the fandom because he's part of that Hughes family, being a former number 1 overall pick and all this stuff. Even this past, calendar year for him has been crazy with the paparazzi-ish stuff of dating
Tate McRae,
the hand injury that kind of captivated hockey audiences. Now he's thrust into this team where there was some, I guess, probably some discourse that I saw at least, which is if he's going to be brought on to play wing, he's not the best option there. That's where you go for a Jason Robertson. That's where you go for a Cole Caulfield.
Right.
I think he's shut everything up, and he has risen to the occasion. This goal by him, because we hopped on this right away, I have yet to see like the frozen in time image of the post celebration, and even on the broadcast. This is my issue after the Megan Keller goal with USA over Canada on Thursday. It's a goal, and then the camera, where she goes one side of the ice, the camera goes the other way up to a still shot of the crowd celebrating. I don't know who I need to get in touch with
that got NBC a lot of complaints,
or the Olympic Committee. Follow the player. I need that reaction because I have yet to see her immediate. Obviously, we saw the USA players now today jumping into the boards to celebrate. I need that initial reaction, the shock factor, the wow, I just did that look on Jack Hughes. And I haven't seen that picture yet, but I'm sure we'll get it. And that poster is going to be somewhere on somebody's wall for the next however many years.
And if you want to just break down the goals, like the iconic, not that the goals are both not iconic, they are. But the Megan Keller goal was probably a better poster because of how it was scored.
I agree.
Like she walked. I mean, she put the puck through a defenseman and then goes in on the backhand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
mean,
saw the overhead
Yeah.
shot of that, and that. Oh God, I'm not going to get the photographer's name correct, but that is a
Bruce
you
Bennett.
have to go. Yes, go.
That's
You have to go
photography.
into the what am I talking about? The catwalk, like above the game,
Yep.
because they do this, and I learned this actually at the World Juniors that were here about a month ago. They allow the catwalk availability so you can go set up a camera above, and then it's a remote control, and the timing
Yes.
and the patience and the preparation to get that shot. I mean, that's a 1 in a million photo.
Oh,
now,
God,
do we get that
Yeah.
for Jack Hughes? I'm not sure. I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen one yet.
Right. No, that's a good, yeah. And both are great goals. And both, I mean, the fact that both these games went to OT 3-on-3, which is a little bit of a random thing, right? And the fact
Right.
that the U.S. won both games is absolutely incredible. I would be remiss going back to the third period because the U.S., again, as I said earlier on the show, they easily could have lost this game by 2 goals or 3 goals.
Mhm.
Hellebuyck was phenomenal, but in my notes here, I also have that that scrum in front where I think it was Charlie McAvoy saved a goal.
Yeah.
The puck hit him. If that puck does not hit him, that's a goal. That's a goal for sure, I think.
There were some instances of that too. How many times can we go back and look at the minor details of this game and say, wow, USA got, yes, the Barnstormer.
Barney just woke up. I had to tell him what happened. He's very excited about the game. Come on, Barney, sit down.
I mean, you had the paddle save by Hellebuyck. You had the deflection by McAvoy, like
Yep.
right in front of his own goal to save that. You mentioned it earlier. The McKinnon. How many times are you going to give Nathan McKinnon half a goal to bury it from that close? And he just flat out misses. You don't get everything that I think could have gone right, especially with some of the missed. I'll say it. Some of the missed officiating today. They had too many men. They had like 8 skaters out there on that one change.
Good
That
call.
was interesting. There's probably like IIHF traditionally, Brock Faber probably gets a slashing call on that. What was it? McDavid breakaway.
Yes.
Granted, he didn't get a shot off, so that would have been, interesting. But everything that could have gone, or that they needed to go their way today, being right place, right time, the paddle being, a certain spot just to save a goal. USA had that today. They had that extra edge. They had that extra it factor. And it's not a way for me to discount. I'm saying they earned that. Like they earned the medal because they did everything right.
I will say this, to your point. I thought the officiating, given the circumstances, was pretty good.
I agree.
The Jack Hughes, what was it? The Bennett high stick.
Yeah.
Like
that
he's
was a
bleeding.
baseball swing, basically.
He lost teeth. You had to call that.
Yeah.
It's 4. Like he's bleeding, his teeth are gone. And then Jack Hughes comes out and commits a high stick for 2 on Horvat. You got to call that. But I thought they did a pretty good job. You're right. The missed too many men call was egregious because it was so clear. Like
Yeah.
there was so much confusion there. But other than that, I thought that they did a good job. I certainly did not want the officials deciding that game. They let a lot go. But that being said, they sort of let a lot go both ways. I mean, that Wilson Marchand Bennett line it's like straight out of the movie Slapshot. Like it's incredible. You think the Kachucks are nasty. I mean, that line, Marchand at one time was standing in front of the U.S. bench, basically trolling them. But I thought for the most part, I was very pleased that the game played out or was allowed to play out by the officials the way it did, because beyond the 2-man, which I didn't have a problem with, advantage in second period for Canada, I felt like they did a really good job of, for the most part, trying to stay out of the way whenever they could.
Yeah. And this goes back to the marrying the games between NHL officiating and IIHF, which is they let some more things go than I typically would have thought. Because what I'm used to, at least like when I was growing up, I think we would have had an uproar on social media and now in the comment section, post game, whatever the outcome would have been, which is something along like, there's too many whistles, there's too many penalties, all this stuff. And I was scared for Canada when you're bringing a guy like Tom Wilson, who nearly gave me a heart attack at 1 or 2 times in this game when I saw him take a run to throw a body check on guys like Quinn Hughes or Matt
did.
Boldy.
Early he did on
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes. He tried. Quinn Hughes just saw him just in time, or Quinn Hughes is laying on the ice, baby.
The wild season flashed before my eyes there. Thank God nothing happened. But and on the same thing, Matthew, Brady, Tkachuk, I mean, they play a certain type of game where I was nervous for these Olympics because I thought this could be a real spot where it does more harm than good for Team USA. They kept themselves in line very well. Tom Wilson, for the most part, did, besides that fight against France, but I know he was sticking up for a teammate there, so I understand it. The officiating, I think, was fine. Like, there was maybe, for as much as they let go, it was pretty even in my mind, minus the too many men. And I thought Marchand had a really flagrant missed embellishment call, I think in the first period, where somebody did like a fly down. I mean, it looked like he got hit by a sniper in the trees. Just went down, and then 2 seconds later he was up crashing the net. So I thought the officiating was fine. As nervous as I was, it was very even and didn't affect the game too much, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah.
The telecast, I thought, and yes, throughout the course of the tournament, the production on after goals was sketchy. Now, I don't know. I know that NBC has a production team. I think they're taking like a world feed though, which is why lots of times like you wouldn't get a replay instantly. All of that being said, I thought the booth of Kenny Albert, Olczyk, and Boucher was fantastic. And today, no commercials, which to me lended to the intensity. So there were commercials between periods, but in the game, they just stayed there. Mm-hmm. That's about, for 2026, that's about as uncommercial of type of event, because there are millions watching. That's about as uncommercial, not just not showing commercials, but no ads on the boards, no ads on the sweaters, as you could possibly get. So I thought that part of the production, and Kenny, who does a ton of things, was fantastic. And hockey, I think, no question, is his best sport. But man, did he rise to the moment. And I really thought that NBC, what they could control for the most part, that was really, really good today.
Yeah. Just on the broadcast crew to start, first off, Mike Tirico is what Al Michaels was, and I understand he's still doing games. I think at a certain point, he's lost his fastball, I think, a little bit. Sure. But Mike Tirico has stepped into that role. And what an ambassador for like introduction and hosting and getting the Olympic feel. He's got the voice, he's got the attitude, he's got the presentation. Terrific there. Eddie Olczyk. I mean, I still miss him and Doc Emmerich on calls just because it was such a great tandem. But what you got with Kenny Albert, he is about as good of a successor to that role as possible. Brian Boucher between the bench, and it's so good because it felt like in the past there was this constant ragging on Pierre Maguire between the bench. Because
there was.
I mean, he would sort of force himself in and whatnot, but there's clearly a friendship, a relationship commodity between Olczyk and Albert and Boucher to where it's just seamless. Even though those two guys are in the box and he's down below, it feels like they're all kind of just there, and it's just a great conversation. They know when to let each other breathe and not step on toes. And the no ads was the best. Like, it was hockey serenity today. You didn't have the ever-changing whoosh along the boards. Hey, you can get your 2 for 1 at this store, blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, live odds. Matt Boldy, his over now, live odds have changed for his multiple goal line, blah, blah, blah. No ads on the jerseys. It was about as good as I think it could have been for presentation-wise. I know they didn't have control at a lot of times over the shots and replays and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is
too
bad.
For what was in their control, they did a fantastic job, and I would just like to shake the hand of whatever NBC executive probably stood up to a board and said, "No, we're not doing ads. Stake their job because they're gonna get Nielsen ratings. They're gonna get audience.
I'd love to know that call. I'd love to know how that was made. I was shocked. Yeah. I was absolutely shocked, but it kept the intensity, like, because you stayed at least during the game itself, not between periods. You stayed in the arena. Yeah. And so, like, the shots of the players and stuff, it was great. Yeah, I did not think in a million years that any network could get away with that. The last thing I want to bring up too, because you talked about Sweden, and I think it's a relevant conversation. It's coaching. So, I mean, these are Sweden, the U.S., and Canada were the only three teams that were built solely on National Hockey League players. And I think what we saw too is, and I know that, I think the old thing is, well, you just throw them out there, put together the lines, and they're going to be great, which is partially true, but it's not entirely true. And I think Sweden proved that. Sweden was terribly coached. Sweden was absolutely terribly coached. John Cooper and Mike Sullivan are both very good. And I thought it was interesting to start the third, and I thought he was hurt at first. He wasn't. That Matthew Tkachuk was taken off the line with Brady and Eichel.
Yep.
And Mike Sullivan, and it didn't work great, but it still took some gumption. Mike Sullivan put the lines in a blender. John Cooper's a great coach. It's not questioned.
Fantastic.
But I mean, when you look at how poorly Sweden was run, and the fact that in the game against the U.S., Jesper Bratt basically didn't get off the bench as the extra guy, right? Until the third period. And then he was fantastic. The first game, Philip Forsberg for Sweden played like one shift. I mean, just inexcusable crap coaching. So shout out to both of those coaches because, we all say anyone could coach that team. Well, Sweden proved that's not true because I think coaching impacted them very adversely. And the U.S. and Canada, I thought, were both really, really well run. It's an all-star tournament, but you still have to be willing to make changes at times. And both of those coaches did. And I think we saw that Sullivan gets the win, but I have, unless I'm forgetting something, I have no qualms with the coaching for both teams that play today.
That's where it goes back to, I think, Bill Guerin, because it takes one thing to build the right roster, but it's another to know who the right coaches are. Mike Sullivan, John Tortorella, John Hines. Those were the three, at least, that come to mind for me for the USA coaching
Bruce
staff.
Cassidy, too, I think, right?
Bruce Cassidy, correct.
Vegas,
Yes, that's the one. I knew I was forgetting one. But they knew exactly what they were doing. They were able to look within the game at times and recognize this has to get tinkered with. This has to get swapped. We have to, mix and match these guys. And then John Cooper and his staff on the Canadian bench. I mean, look at how they, when they needed to, in the games where they were behind and needed a goal late to force overtime, they were mixing and matching. I think Macklin Celebrini the other day played like 25 plus minutes in a game where they had to, because that's how good he is. They were recognized. We're not saving anything for the gold medal game if we're not going to get there. And that's where some of the teams that I think had surprising success, Finland, with their bronze medal yesterday, they had good coaching. Slovakia, granted, they had some damn good goaltending with Samuel Hellebuyck, but given their roster, that's a really good coaching job to put them in a position to get a couple upsets. All of a sudden, you're in a medal game. Granted, you fall short, but I'm sure in terms of the Slovakian Hockey Federation, they're probably coming away from this Olympic game saying, you know what? That's a success. We'll take that. We fall short, and obviously that's a bummer, but for the most part, that's one of our better finishes as of late. The coaching was fantastic today. And so that I think is another pat on the back for Bill Guerin, because there was so much discussion about who should and shouldn't be on the roster. I don't know if anybody ever once thought coaching-wise, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Tortorella just kind of, with his reputation, there was some discussion there, but they clearly knew what they were doing, and hats off to them. Yeah,
and I think it probably helped that both of those guys got a head start a bit with the all-star rosters, and a lot of the same players from the four nations last year, because Cooper and Sullivan both coached those teams as well. And yes, Bill Guerin deserves a ton of credit. This is huge. He's had a lot of success with that program. It continues. And I'm going to tell you right now, they lost in overtime of the Four Nations Championship game. But if I'm going to get a gold medal or the championship trophy, I guess, for a tournament that was awesome, but is just constructed by the league, I will take the gold every single day. And again, the first gold on the anniversary of the 80 team beating the Soviets, that win, which was the penultimate win, that was just to be clear here too, that was a round robin tournament. The U.S. beat Finland for the gold. That was not the gold medal game in 80, but if the U.S. had lost, they don't win gold. But I mean, this is just in the annals of USA hockey, the past 4 days or so are absolutely, absolutely huge days, and congratulations.
Before we give final thoughts and wrap up, I got to ask, who's your MVP for Team USA? Because I think, from my mind, it probably goes to Connor Hellebuyck.
It
But
does, has to, I think.
you think I was gonna say potentially Jack Hughes just for the sake of you look at the women's stuff, and Caroline Harvey got the MVP for I think the entire Olympic tournament, just because of the point production there, and what Jack Hughes has done up front was great. But the goaltending today, I think, is the separator for why USA did win gold.
Yep, and he actually came into the game in the tournament with the better goals against average than Binnington, a much higher save percentage. So like his play throughout was really, really good. Stands on his head. I mean, I will go partially, I guess, with recency bias. You don't play like that dude did in the third period, because I'll say it again, they probably should have lost by 2 goals. So
Right.
Hellebuyck is definitely my MVP, and certainly answered some questions about he can't win the big one because he won arguably one of the biggest ones. I'm out of thoughts. You?
I will say, you know what? I'll issue an apology to Olympic gold medalists Vinny Trocheck and JT Miller, because the penalty killing today that they showed proved me wrong as to why they were on the team. You know, congrats to them. They played their role. As much as I didn't like the selection and still maybe aren't a fan of that, of JT Miller and now that as he moved back to the Rangers, he proved me wrong. I mean, that was some great penalty killing today, and he clearly played the role that Bill Guerin brought him into. But that goes back to Bill Guerin being right about this roster construction, which makes me catapult into confidence for what he's going to do in the coming days over the next 2 weeks before the
Putting that
NHL
pressure
trade
right back on him.
Absolutely,
I've done this before. I know your method here. It is 100%. Let's put the pressure back on. All right. Thanks again. At one point, up to 1,000 people watching, which is absolutely awesome. Appreciate you. Remember, like and subscribe to the new Judd's Hockey Show channel. We talk a lot of Wild, but this has been an absolute blast. The Olympic tournament was phenomenal. And again, the U.S. wins gold for the first time since 1980, a historic day for United States men's hockey. He's AJ. I'm Judd. Hopefully see you soon next time on Judd's Hockey Show.